There have been a few surprises during my first months as Prime Minister. For example, I hadn't expected to spend so much time dealing with wildlife. Belugas, ostriches, premiers, except for present company accepted, obviously.
Yeah, funny stuff, eh? That's your Prime Minister. Well, maybe he's not your Prime Minister. We'll be back shortly. I've got more to say about that. You're watching Stand on Guard. I'm David Krayden, the host. We're broadcasting to you today live from Ottawa.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
So it's no problem with Mark Carney if farmers in British Columbia or Western Canada in general have to endure government overreach. I don't even want to call it that anymore. Government tyranny from Mark Carney's government, Mark Carney's RCMP, Mark Carney's Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Big joke. These are just farmers in the hinterland. What do they have to complain about? Why should we even listen? Well, thank you for so many of you who commented on my interview with Katie Pasidney, which I posted yesterday, and hundreds of you responded. Thank you for your comments. I read them all this morning, and a couple of them I want to respond to. I know a lot of you were saying, what's going on, what's happening, and I think that interview supplied a lot of answers, and thank you for watching. I'll be showing another clip at the end of this program from that interview, and encourage you to watch the whole interview. It's up on YouTube and Rumble and X, and it was in Facebook as well, and it was a very, very, very good interview. Let's talk about digital ID, because while Mark Carney has us totally distracted by a bogus pipeline deal, that's not going to happen. And I talked about this last night extensively with my good friend, Nico Legan, with whom I chat every Wednesday night on the Conservative Corner. We talked about this quite a bit. And I think if Pierre Poilievre gets anything, it's that he understands this pipeline is a major distraction for Mark Carney, because he wants people to be fighting over whether or not it's going to happen, whether or not it's not going to happen, whether, if it does happen, is it going to have an environmental impact that's going to divide the Liberal caucus? If it doesn't happen, is it going to divide the Conservative Party? Well, already has divided Conservatives. The United Conservative Party of Alberta divided against the Federal Conservative Party of Canada. And Daniel Smith, Premier Daniel Smith, leader of that Alberta party, is very much divided with Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Federal Conservative Party, over the pipeline. Daniel Smith is putting a lot of political capital in this pipeline coming to fruition. Pierre Poilievre is putting a lot of political capital into the pipeline not coming to fruition, because it's another example of Mark Carney's hypocrisy, double dealing, two-faced kind of politics. Let me tell you this before we get into digital ID. This is sort of my comment section about what's been happening all week. It was a very stupid mistake for the Liberal government to not support Pierre Poilievre's motion on Tuesday night, which essentially recapitulated everything the Liberal Memorandum of Understanding had already spelled out. In fact, Poilievre, in a speech, I played most of it yesterday, was very careful to articulate that he had literally lifted the wording from the MOU. And when Carney came back and said, "Oh, you're sorry, we can't support it because it doesn't include First Nations participation. It doesn't include environmental impact. Paul, you put it in. So it was almost a carbon copy. So you know what Carney could have done by supporting this motion? He could have said, well, we're united. The official opposition and the government of Canada are united in their desire to build a pipeline. And Pierre Poilievre would have had to shut up. Would have had to stop asking questions because Carney had said so. And Carney could have basically appropriated the Conservative Party and said, okay, we're all in this together. This is a united front. You remember that? One Canada, one strong and free, strong Canada. Yeah, it would have been exactly what Mark Carney started out doing, which was to hijack the official opposition. He could have done that with this motion the other night. Chose not to. And I think it was politically very stupid because it would have necessitated Pierre Poilievre shutting up you. He would have said, well, okay, you supported our motion. What can I say? And I think that would have been very bad for Mark Carney. But the whole issue, as I said, is a distraction from the censorship surveillance laws that are coming through. We got C9 is barreling through to third reading. That is frightening. It's barreling through the committee process, and it could get to third reading by the time the MPs all go home for Christmas, because I believe they got another week coming. So it's December 11th. They never leave that early. They at least wait till winter, or winter is not far off. And you bet they probably won't be back till February. So I think Carney wants this bill passed by the end of the fall session, which is coming up pretty damn quick, but I think they can do it. We need to keep fighting back in every way possible, because you know what else is coming? Yeah. Buried in the budget is Canada's quiet turn toward digital identity. You see, how, where? There was a lot of pushback in the United Kingdom when Herr Keir Starmer, the dictator of Great Britain, introduced digital ID. People said, hey, this is going too far. So Mark Carney's quietly introducing it in, here it is, page 490. You got to read, if you ever read the budget. Nobody, even reporters, don't read the whole budget. They read the executive summary, and then they highlight certain sections that are of interest to their beat. But no reporter will sit there all day and read the budget from cover to cover. And the government knows that. That's why they put in poison pills like this. Legislative amendments to the Department of Employment and Social Development Act proposes legislative amendments to the Department of Employment and Social Development Act to enable the delivery of more integrated and efficient services across government. Oh, it's more efficient. These amendments would benefit all Canadians by enabling the development of more efficient, there we go, and convenient government services. Modernizing legislative authorities to support information sharing and digital services, there it is, would particularly benefit groups facing barriers due to outdated paper-based processes, particularly seniors, newcomers, illegal immigrants, persons with disabilities, and rural residents. Lower income people may also benefit. So it's easier to access digital, here it is, digital literacy gaps among seniors. They'll do it all for you. So this is how they're introducing it. They'll do your taxes, and you want employment insurance? We'll do it digitally. And private sector's already gone here. I think I shared with you the last time I had to get a SIM card for my phone. Rogers demanded digital ID from me. And this is part and parcel for all of the phone companies now. All of the wireless companies, they're demanding digital ID. And they know they're going to get away with it because the government's just 2 steps behind for full implementation of digital ID. Canada's federal government is quietly moving forward with a national digital ID system, slipping the plan into the depths of its 2025 budget, where almost no one would notice. Well, just about almost. Yeah, and there it is. Canada strong budget. You tell me what's so strong about Canada. Here's a note from Vote Canada. I think we mentioned this. This is from November, but it's getting closer because now Canada's cozying up to the EU with a digital ID. Canadians deserve the truth about what the government is doing behind closed doors, especially when it involves handing over more control of their personal lives to bureaucrats in Ottawa. So that's what's happening. Digital ID. First, they'll say you need it to work. Yeah. Which kind of means you need it to survive, eh? Because you won't be getting unemployment insurance without it. And you won't be able to work without it. And you'll also need it to travel, to shop, to access healthcare, to drive, to go online, to go vote. In a word, you need it. You'll need it to exist in society. And once digital ID is in place, it won't stop there. It becomes the gateway to the carbon credit system where every purchase, every trip, every choice is tracked. You'll only be able to spend within your assigned allowance. That's called social credit. And I don't mean the now defunct political party that was at one time the government of British Columbia and actually at one time very strong in Quebec. It was called the Catastrophe in British Columbia and Alberta. It was called the Social Credit Party. That's nothing to do with what is now being called social credit. It means you have to build up your social credit with the government to be allowed to live in the way you think you should be living, in the manner you become accustomed to. And if you don't fulfill your social credit to the right level, well, you begin to be denied access to certain things. Maybe the internet. Maybe you can't shop at certain stores. Maybe you can't travel, even within the country, certainly not outside the country. You won't get health care. You won't be able to drive. And certainly you won't be able to vote. Now, what does that sound like to me? Well, it sounds like communism. Isn't that like communism, where the government controls everything you do from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep at night? People used to lament in Stalin's Soviet Union. The only time you felt safe was when you were lying in bed at night, either alone or with your spouse or your lover or whomever, because that was the only time the government wasn't watching you. Guess what? We've moved way beyond that one. We have moved way beyond that because with digital ID, the government will be watching you even when you're lying in bed at night. You won't be safe. You won't be anonymous. You won't be immune from surveillance. And what has Mark Carney been doing ever since he won the last federal election? Introducing onerous, ominous, very invidious censorship and surveillance bills. He has been going full throttle on this. So here's your Government of Canada wallet, early access. This app is in development. Be one of the first. Yeah, get on board first and try it and provide feedback. Oh yeah. You want to be one of the first to get your digital ID wallet. So, don't wait. Don't delay. Do it now because, my God, you might even get some social credit points for doing it voluntarily and not fighting back. Well, we know what happens when you fight back. Yeah, you get your farm invaded by the CFIA and hundreds of ostriches massacred. That's what happens when you do push back against the government and you say, I don't think I want to accept that. Well, they'll give it to you in a big way. Now, what's coming? Here's the social credit points again. This is what's happening in the UK. You get a carbon score. Wow. The government will do that for me? Yeah, you get a carbon score to say, what kind of a carbon footprint are you creating? Too big? Well, we're going to have to cut down on your T-bone steaks this week and your eggs and bacon. No eggs and bacon for you. Your carbon footprint's too big. Oh, and stop using your car, please. You say you need it to get to work. Well, find another means. There's no bus service. You have to walk or take your bike. I'm looking outside right now and thinking, wouldn't be a very nice bike ride or walk to downtown Ottawa from my house right now. But if I can't drive the car, and there's certainly no mass transit, and I might not be allowed to use mass transit if it's there. So what does this all mean? Well, you'll own nothing and be happy, and let them eat bugs. People have been saying ever since we started reporting this, and others, and hundreds of other people on social media, and tens of thousands of people on social media, but hundreds of new media and independent media have been reporting this now for years, that the World Economic Forum wants you to eat bugs. Where would we get a crazy idea like that? Well, try the WEF website and you'll see it all there. And it's all there. This is the plan. This has been the plan for quite some time. Now, I'm going to show you what Pierre Poilievre was up to in question period yesterday. But I'm going to ask this question. Is he missing something? And we'll watch this, and then I'll say, I think Pierre Poilievre missed something during question period yesterday.
Wanted to know who came up with the idea of radical open doors, liberal immigration that overwhelmed our healthcare, housing, and job market. Well, it turns out it was Mark Wiseman, the Prime Minister's corporate crony, longtime Liberal elite, and head of the Century Initiative, whose stated mission is to triple the population of Canada to 100 million people, a policy that is designed to profit multinational corporations by driving wages down and housing costs up. Why is it that every time somebody comes along with an idea that harms Canadians and drives up their cost of living, the Prime Minister gives them a promotion?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wish to reiterate my thanks to our outgoing ambassador to the United States of America, Kirsten Hillman, who has furnished incredible, loyal, and very insightful services to the people and to the government of Canada. Mr. Speaker, I think our country owes her a debt of gratitude. And once again, the policy that the member across refers to has never been and will never be the policy of the government of Canada.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, every time a Liberal insider does damage to Canadians, drives up their cost of living, they get a reward. It's not just with Mr. Wiseman, it's the Prime Minister himself. His policies are driving up year to come. And what did he do as punishment for himself? Gave himself an $800,000 privately chartered flight to Egypt, where there were meetings happening in which he had absolutely no role other than a photo op. Why is it that Canadians need to line up at food banks so that he can go jetting around the world for photo ops?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I know in the spirit of the holiday season, the Leader of the Opposition is not surely not suggesting that the Prime Minister not attend as auspicious an event as the ceremony with respect to peace in the Middle East and Gaza, and joining multitudes of other world leaders at that occasion and representing and making Canadians proud for his attendance at that event.
The Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was conspicuously irrelevant at that meeting, where he had played no role whatsoever in the agreement, and yet he charged Canadians $800,000 for a privately chartered jet. Apparently, his own prime ministerial jet was not good enough for him. He does this while he imposes an industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, on fertilizer, on food processors that has driven 2.2 million Canadians to a food bank. Why is the Prime Minister being the Grinch of the grocery store, charging taxpayers for flights when Canadians can't eat?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker,
So you have to laugh. They don't even know who's going to be standing up to answer these questions, because Mark Carney's barely ever there. And yeah, he's conspicuous by his irrelevancy at this peace process in the Middle East. But nobody knows really what to do except stand up and read the talking points.
I can't hear.
Also, I just would like to mention to the honourable member for Oakville West that I could hear her all the way here. So if we could keep it a little lower. We will now go to the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's work on the world stage with his bringing end to the conflict in the Middle East is extremely important. He is continuing to be engaged on the peace plan in the Middle East. The plan, in fact, reflects Canada's long-standing positions that Hamas should have no role in the governance of Palestine, and the ceasefire provides an opportunity for the Prime Minister and other world leaders to continue to work on humanitarian aid for the benefit of all.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's refusal, even though he's in Ottawa, to answer my questions directly is not keeping with the Christmas spirit. And he's going to, this is at a time when he's driven up the cost of living so much. 2.2 million Canadians are lined up at food banks, that food prices are going to drive an extra $1,000 onto the grocery bills of Canadians next year after he imposed higher taxes on farm equipment, fertilizer, food packaging, and more. Will the Prime Minister, instead of being the Grinch of the grocery store, reverse these taxes so that Canadians can have an affordable, delicious Christmas?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, while the member opposite talks about imaginary taxes, Canadians know exactly what's on, and it's related to climate change, Mr. Speaker.
Well, thank you, Patty. It's all about climate change. What the hell is she talking about? Pierre Poilievre was asking about Mark Carney's attendance in the House of Commons. He was asking about crazy immigration laws. And what the hell does that have to do with climate change? But Patty Haju standing up there saying, this is all about climate change, and Canadians know that. This is the worst insult we can possibly have. As I said, we've got 3 or 4 ministers stepping up to the podium here to talk, to answer Pierre Poilievre's questions, and they don't even know what the hell they're reading from anymore. I think she actually was reading from the wrong talking point there, because clearly, even in the demented minds of the Mark Carney government caucus and cabinet, this has nothing to do with climate change. Even in their crazy thinking, nothing at all to do with climate change. Yet Patty Haju was allowed to get away with that. Well, of course she was. Now I'm going to show you something. No, I want to clarify something here. The Government of Canada Wallet app is up and running. They're encouraging you to be among the first. Be among the first to participate. But it is up and running. So this is ominous. This is very ominous. This is where we're at. Now, before I get to a fascinating segment from the Jimmy Dore show about the effectiveness, the efficacy of the PRC test. This is what this, and to remind you, and I think there's enough background in the Jimmy Dore clip that I'm going to show you. This was the test to see if you had COVID, and it's the same test that was used on those ostriches way back in December, when there was an avian flu outbreak. Supposedly, it was a PRC test that was used twice and never used again throughout the entire year of 2025 until the CFIA goons massacred all those birds. And here's a clip from my interview with Katie Sidney, and I encourage you to watch the whole interview. And then we're going to go to that Jimmy Dore clip. So don't miss that.
Who wouldn't be struggling after what the world has just witnessed and the massacre of these big, beautiful prehistoric animals that were not around for just a few years? They were decades old. I don't need to tell all of you that. But it's been challenging. It's been challenging there's been anxiety. There's been sleepless nights. There is PTSD. Personally, I'm I'm happy to share with other people. I just want people to know that they're not alone from all the messages that I get, panic attacks. And it's something that is very new, but I think it's just going to be part of the process. And the one big thing that feels so well or so good is that we have so much support. There's a lot of people that are carrying the same burdens that we are. The sleepless nights, the anxiety, hearing that those gunshots go off in your head, and just what we all witnessed. And so all those people have been reaching out. There's been hundreds of people reaching out across the world. And it just feels really good that we can walk through this journey together, because no one should ever have to walk through this alone. And none of us were expecting, I don't think, what we witnessed. I mean, we thought time and time again, I get messages that people said, I just thought that we would get through this with the ostriches alive.
Yeah, I think we both did, and it was almost beyond shocking that it didn't turn out that way. But as for the future, and you were telling me yesterday that you and your mom want to continue with an ostrich farm, but not necessarily 300 to 400 ostriches, maybe 50. And what kind of farm do you imagine this? Almost like a part petting zoo, part remembrance, part a place for people to come and reflect on animals and themselves. How do you see this new development going?
I think as we go forward, it's changed in our minds quite a bit in the last 30 days. But the one thing that keeps a light in our heart is just having ostriches again, because they've been such an important part of our life, and we are huge animal lovers. And it would just feel so wonderful to have them back. We still believe, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I mean, it's a very real one, that there's missing ostriches. We firmly believe that. And we want to believe that this is such a big story that one day we will get some of our own babies back. Maybe that's wishful thinking. I don't know, but there's whistleblowers everywhere. And this would be one miracle before Christmas. That would be amazing. But even after Christmas is fine. A remembrance, legacy farm, somewhere we have so many people we've met, and there's been thousands of people through this farm, that somewhere where my mom could continue to educate and bring awareness of how amazing these ostriches are, these prehistoric wonders that became beacons of hope for many across the world, to get up close, personal, but also have time with my mom's knowledge, our family's knowledge about these animals, the compassion, the healing that they can bring, and to maybe even hatch and incubate and just show people it is a beautiful, beautiful thing when you get to see those little babies running around, and yeah, just to have a legacy remembrance ranch or a legacy remembrance farm, and then also get to go on a healing journey with everybody that has been on this really catastrophic disaster that we've been through, and what we've witnessed. So we want to put all of our energy into something that's going to be beautiful, but not just for us to help heal, but for the world, and invite people from all around the world to come and see us and to come see the ostriches.
And we're going to be there. We're going to be there with you, Katie, and want to show a little more of that incredibly tasteless comments from Mark Carney. And we'll have this here in a second. Here we go.
There have been a few surprises during my first months as Prime Minister. For example, I hadn't expected to spend so much time dealing with wildlife. Belugas, ostriches, premiers, except for present company accepted, obviously. Actually, there is no need for a mass cull. because the premiers and I are uniting around projects that will diversify our trade, unlock billions in new investment, create hundreds of thousands of high-paying careers.
We're going to get back to that clip from Mark Carney after we show you some of what was on Jimmy Dore yesterday. And this is absolutely fascinating because it indicates to me. Here we go.
Was massively overdiagnosed. 86% were false positives. That means 14% were accurate diagnoses of COVID. It was massively overdiagnosed by this PCR test.
Spoiler alert, you know how they gave you PCR tests to see if you had COVID? Turns out almost 9 out of 10 of those tests that said you had COVID were fraudulent.
Oh man.
God. Of course.
Oh, wouldn't you know it?
So just let me just give you a little background before I drop it on you. This is Kerry Mullis. Now, I've showed this guy on the show before. He's the inventor of the PCR test. That's the test used to declare a COVID pandemic. That's the test that they were using to say if you had COVID, and that's the test that they used to declare the COVID pandemic, the PCR test. Well, there's a big problem with that, and I'm going to show you. And he was Dr. Fauci's most notable critic. He coincidentally died 4 months before the COVID pandemic. They clearly shut him up before they released the bioweapon because he would have exposed it. And so, just to let you know, this guy won. He invented the PCR test, and he won a Nobel Prize for it. He died on August 7th, 2019, at the age of 74. So here, listen to what he had to say. So this guy's Nobel Prize winner, invented the test that the COVID pandemic was based on, died. Isn't it so convenient that for the establishment that he died 4 months before the start of the pandemic? But here he is talking about the PCR test and how it's not reliable and how it should not be used to diagnose. Watch.
What is it? What is it about humanity that wants to go to all the details and stuff and listen? You know, these guys like Fauci get up there and start talking. You know, he doesn't know anything really about anything, and I'd say that to his face. Nothing. The man thinks you can take a blood sample and stick it in an electron microscope, and if it's got a virus in there, you'll know it. He doesn't understand electron microscopy, and he doesn't understand medicine, and he should not be in a position like he's in. Most of those guys up there on the top are just total administrative people, and they don't know anything about what's going on the bottom. You know, those guys have got an agenda, which is not what we would like them to have, being that we pay for them to take care of our health in some way. They've got a personal kind of agenda. They make up their own rules as they go. They change them when they want to, and they smugly, like Tony Fauci, does not mind going on television in front of and lie directly into the camera. You can't expect the sheep to really respect the best and the brightest. They don't know the difference, really. I mean, I like humans. Don't get me wrong, but basically, the vast majority of them do not possess the ability to judge who is and who isn't a really good scientist. I mean, that's a problem. That's a main problem actually with science, I'd say, in this century, because science is being judged by people. Funding is being done by people who don't understand it. Okay, who do we trust? Fauci? Fauci doesn't know enough to, you know. If Fauci wants to get on television with somebody who knows a little bit about this stuff and debate him, he could easily do it because he's been asked. I mean, I've had a lot of people, president of the University of South Carolina, ask Fauci if he'd come down there and debate me on the stage in front of the student body, because I wanted somebody who was from the other side to come down there and balance my, because I felt like, well, these guys can listen to me, but I need to have somebody else down here that's going to tell me the other side. But Fauci didn't want to do it.
So there he is telling you how the actual game works. And now here's the result of that game. The result is about COVID. You were lied to about the PCR test. You were lied to about the entire pandemic, not just the vaccines. You were here. Watch this. Here's Dr. John Campbell. There's a new study out of Germany, and watch what he found out.
You're most welcome to this talk. Now, today we're going to be looking at research from Germany that shows that between 86 and 90% of COVID tests using the PCR, polymerase chain reaction methods, were false positives. In other words, COVID was massively overdiagnosed. 86% were false positives. That means 14% were accurate diagnoses of COVID. It was massively overdiagnosed by this PCR test.
So once again, I want to emphasize this is the test that was used to ascertain whether you had COVID. It was also the test used by the CFIA to ascertain whether those ostriches had avian influenza. And it's inaccurate 86% to 90% of the time. Now I think that's grounds for Universal Ostrich Farms to sue the federal government, and I'm going to be passing that on to my good friend, Katie.
And if it wasn't massively overdiagnosed, if they didn't make this error, which a lot of people think was a intentional lie, which is what it more looks like, and these people are actual criminals, if they didn't have these bogus tests, they couldn't have declared a pandemic, because most people who they said had COVID actually didn't have COVID. So 86%, if you round 9 out of 10 people who the government told you had COVID didn't have COVID. Oh. Remember how they said the flu disappeared during COVID? Well, I bet they probably had flu, but there was incentives for doctors and hospitals to say you had COVID because they got paid. So that's why everybody got COVID, and we're going to use this PCR test. And even though the guy who invented it said you can find whatever you want. So there's more to this.
The paper that I'm going to be giving evidence for that here. It's actually quite an intelligible paper. You can see it there. It's all in the public domain for yourself. Now, just think about the implications of this.
Yeah.
It looked like there was 7 or 8 times more COVID than there actually was, causing infections as judged by this PCR test.
He says there looks like they were overdiagnosing it, saying that there were 7 to 8 times more COVID infections than there actually was. So 7 to 8 times, that means they overestimated, or telling us that they were off by how many people actually had COVID by 800%. That's what 8 times means. 800% they were off. They weren't off a little. So he's got...
I've got a few notes here, actually. I'll just show you them very briefly of how far out things were. Now, this was the Lancet, very prestigious medical journal.
Prestigious, the Lancet. Let's see if the Lancet was close to an accurate number of how many people actually had COVID during COVID. Let's see. What did the Lancet say?
Not making it up. Check it out for yourself there. So that is the Lancet, the information that gave. And what that actually said, the Lancet said the specificity is greater than 95%. In other words, this is saying that 5% were, at most, 5% were false positives, whereas this current data is showing that 86% to 90%.
So the Lancet was saying, yes, there will be some false positives with the PCR test, but only 5%, when the actual number was 86 to 90%. They said 5. How can the Lancet be that off accidentally? It seems to me that they weren't that off accidentally, just like we found out during COVID, that our medical journals, like our medical schools and our medical establishments and our medical boards, are all corrupted by big pharma money.
But Jimmy, lots of mafias cook the books accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally.
The other mafias have incompetence, and they cook the books by mistake.
So the Lancet said only 5% of the diagnoses of COVID were probably false positives. But the actual number is 86 to 90% were false, which means there wasn't a pandemic.
So I only got COVID.
Okay, might go back to that. I think he's probably made the point there. So do you feel like you were defrauded by the government? They wanted this pandemic. They wanted you to believe that just about everybody around you was infected with the COVID virus, and that you probably would be too. And so you better go run over as soon as your name comes up and get your shot, get your second shot. Oh, and get some booster shots, because this is a pandemic. So this, we now know that it was 86% inaccurate. 800 to 900% more cases than it actually existed. And as I say, this is the same test that was used to determine whether those ostriches on Universal Ostrich Farms really had avian influenza. I say again, and I see some people in the comment section saying, go girl. Katie and her mom should bring this evidence and put it right in the face of the federal government and saying, you defrauded us. You totally defrauded us. And we demand damages, because this is beyond the pale. Let's listen to the tail end of that Mark Carney missive here.
Or as the National Post headline put it, Mark Carney fast tracks the road to serfdom. I mean, you can't buy that kind of support, even if we do fund it. It's true, Conrad. It's true. It's true. Just the facts. Helen's here. It's got to be right. I've got to, you know. Now, speaking of taxpayer-funded purveyors of post-apocalyptic dystopia, Yves-François Blanchet and the Bloc are in the house.
What a comedian. Oh, somebody's muted my mic again. What a comedian. This is Mark Carney at his devious best. Let's have a look at my X page here, because there's some fascinating stuff up here. Because once again, we have to draw the line between digital ID and the budget and digital ID with the EU. And this is what's coming, folks. This is what's coming. Yeah, I encourage you, by the way, to read my human events column, which went up, I think, late yesterday, about Reagan's defense policy being inherited, apparently, by Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth. I hope it's true. This is what we want. And here it is. This week, we reinforced cooperation with Canada to boost competitiveness, innovation, and economic resilience at the first Digital Partnership Council. There it is, folks. EU-Canada Digital Partnership. Now, I didn't put this up. I didn't make this up, folks. This is just like the WEF website. We critics didn't make it up. This is what they're after. And there it is in the budget. And here's Kyle Kemper, my good friend who's been on the show many times. Wonderful guy. Here's Kyle saying, breaking, the government of Canada has silently deployed a digital wallet on the Google Play Store for digital ID. They've also canceled an industry RFP process. I am digging into this and will offer detailed comments soon. Go, Kyle. And I love this. Here's the crazy part. We are partnering with the EU track spending. We all know this. Well, UK tracks their food carbon score and packaging. When you buy this, the government will know, you went over your carbon limit. Time to buy some more. It's not going to happen overnight, but give it a few years. Give it a few months, actually, folks. Give it a few months. And, encourage you to watch my appearance last night with Nico on Conservative Corner. This is an incredible story, which I think I talked about yesterday. I'm going to write something about this today, one way or the other. Well, this is about a Saskatchewan woman who requires a life-saving operation. She can't get it in Canada. Why? Well, can't get it done in Saskatchewan, and she can't get a referral from a Saskatchewan doctor to have it done outside of Saskatchewan. I'm not making this up. But you want medical assistance in dying? No problem. You can have that. That's always an option. So Glenn Beck, the American journalist, Blaze Media host, Blaze Media owner, stepped up, and he's trying to save the life of this Canadian. who can't get a surgery. And it's incredible. Let's watch this brief video.
Third largest killer now. Doctors are the third largest killer in Canada. Is that a problem for anybody? They're just devaluing life. And honestly, this is what happens when you get socialized medicine. This is why third largest killer now. Doctors are the third largest killer in Canada.
Yeah. And
is that
he needed to say it again. He needed to say it again. And so doctors are not only part of medical assistance in dying, they're part of the euthanasia program, but they're not available for life-saving operations. And if you need an operation in Canada, let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. You're going to be waiting a long time for certain operations. I've done many stories about the wait list for some very serious operations. Some very simple ones and some very serious ones. And in most cases, you're sometimes waiting for a life-saving operation longer than you're going to survive waiting for it. I mean, it's hard to believe, but that's exactly. And you say, "Oh, Canada has a wonderful system of healthcare. It's all free." Well, it's not It's not free. You're taxed death on it. Every time you file your taxes, you know how much of you're being taxed by the province for your healthcare. It's actually more than the price of private healthcare in the United States. We've proven this. And you need an operation like now, forget it. You're going to have to be waiting. But in the meantime, there's good old medical assistance in dying available for you. So maybe that's an option. It's incredible, isn't it? But that's where we are in this country. So let us have a look at the merchandise.
Ho, 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 ho.
Who cares?
Yes, and here's our latest addition to the story. George Orwell was right. We call these trigger stickers. Why do we call them trigger stickers? Because this is a means to open up a conversation with your friends and family, not just over Christmas, but anytime. So people can see what you believe, and possibly it might not be in concurrence with what they believe. Maybe a discussion is in order. So we've got so much about free speech, about the need to be a conspiracy knower, about the horrific atrocity that occurred at Universal Ostrich Farms last month, just over a month ago. And these have all been remarkably successful. And you saw that. So thank you so much for visiting the store. I encourage you to do that. And we're very proud of the store. So anyway, I'm going to show you the rest of this interview with Jimmy Dore because I think it's really worth watching.
Yeah, my facts.
Yeah. Yep.
Are false positives. A bit of a difference. Given that these figures are probably correct, how did the Lancet get it so wrong? Is a question. The UK government, let me show you their site there. This is the UK government site. where they talk about impact of false positives. And what are they saying? Well, the figures that they gave, this is 2020. The UK government are saying, there we go, 2.3% of false positives. So the Lancet at most 5%, not 86 to 90. So the UK government figure was 2.3% false positives. The actual figure seems to be 86%. And the hallowed New England Journal of Medicine, again, this is the reference here. Don't take my word for it. They said, what did they say? 1.7% were false positives.
So the New England Journal of Medicine said there was only 1.7% false positives. Even
they're only off by like
they're only off by like 90%.
It's like, I mean, that's a big factor to be off by.
So
really
now
off.
you know why. Now you know why, as I just elucidated with Dr. Aaron Kheriaty, that 70% of Americans now they doubt that the medical industry has their best interests. 70%
what
of
was
Americans.
Their first clue?
70%
$3,000 copay.
70% of Americans doubt that the medical system in America has their best interest, and now you know why. Because they were lied to at unbelievably extraordinary levels. Because if you
I'm going to say a little bit at the end here, and I should have said this at the beginning. I'm going to be emphasizing this for the next couple of shows. We need your subscriptions. Please, and subscribe to my Substack, subscribe to this program, because we're not getting the subscriptions we need. We're falling behind. We're being suppressed. We know that, but we need your subscriptions. Please share this station, this program with your friends and families. We need you to do that because we're getting steamrolled by the government. Which brings me to another point. I said at the very beginning of the show, we're going to show you that Pierre Poilievre question period clip and say, what did he miss? Well, I'm sorry. And as somebody just reminded me in the comment section, Bill C9 is hurtling towards third reading. And it's going to pass with the support of the NDP, probably, but with the bloc as well. With or without this religious exemption. It's toxic with or without the religious exemption. It's a bad law. And Pierre Poilievre needs to be standing up every day, not just in the House of Commons, but on his private videos. Every time he has a presser, news conference, scrum, he needs to say, Bill C9 is disastrous for Canada. It's going to mean further erosion and potential end of free speech in Canada because more is coming after that. Got to start now to stop it. If that makes sense, we have to start now to stop C9. Maybe that should be the rallying cry. To do that now before it's too late. And Pierre Poilievre needs to take a personal interest in this as the leader of the official opposition, as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Andrew Lawton has done a great job on this in the Justice Committee and in the House of Commons. But he's a backbench MP. Only two other MPs have really gotten involved in this, and that's Michelle Rempel-Garner, Calgary Nose Hill, Conservative MP, and Leston Lewis, Toronto area, Conservative MP. And I would suggest Pierre Poilievre has to make this a personal project before it's too late. So there we are. Kill Bill C9. Take action. And you can find this information in the description to sign the petition, to get involved. Let your MP know how you feel about this. Conservative, Liberal, and New Democrat or Bloc. Let your MP know how you feel about this because we need to take action about this, not yesterday, today, and continuing in the days to follow. This is about your personal freedom. This is about a foundational right that makes Canada a democracy and not a tyranny. We cannot be a democracy without freedom of speech. We cannot even be a country without freedom of speech. We're going to be a vassal of, God only knows, Mark Carney and Brookfield Strong. That's what it's going to come down to. Thank you for watching today, folks. It's been a pleasure. We'll be back again tomorrow with more of the news you need to know. I'm David Krayden. I've been broadcasting to you live from Ottawa. Godspeed to all. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I am going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Krayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.